Alright, what's happening, y'all? It's your boy Rico from Street Scores, and it's that time of year, man. We getting heavy in the draft stuff. Like I said, I'm working on some film sessions for a lot of these prospects, especially now that we know exactly who the Commanders are, at the very least, somewhat interested in. Y'all know we do this every year. I'm gonna bring y'all the list of the Washington Commanders targeted 2023 NFL draft prospects, and y'all already know, if y'all have been here, I'm gonna have the link included in the description if you want access to this list whenever you want to look at it. And I'm gonna be updating the list every day, every time there's a new prospect, and then every time they add enough prospects where it's worthy of doing a whole nother video, then we'll do that. But it's that time in draft season, man. First day of the combine, well, the first real day when guys are actually running their 40s and doing everything. We did all of the medical testing, did a lot of interviews and stuff already before today, but today the defensive linemen and the linebackers, I've been watching it all day too while working on this list as well, so I'm super excited. Y'all know draft season, off season, team building, basically being a GM is like my favorite part of football. I almost enjoy it even more than the actual games, man, so I'm super excited. Again, I'm super excited as a Georgia Bulldog fan too, man, because we're finally starting to show out at combines, man. We're coming in with a lot of really interesting projected first round prospects. I mean, last year we set an NFL record for most players taken in the first round by one college, and we also set a record for the most players drafted by one team in an entire draft. I hope Jalen Carter gets his situation under control or whatever's going on with that stuff. Like I just said, the previous video, being a Commanders fan and a Georgia Bulldog fan means the most chaos day to day as a football fan possible. I don't think a lot of people know, but Georgia's almost as chaotic as the Commanders. Definitely the two most chaotic organizations in football. And I hate that it took for us to have to win two back-to-back championships for the Commanders to finally show interest in one Georgia Bulldog player, but it is what it is. I'm just excited that we finally have one that we're interested in, and I'm hoping that we draft them. Of course, as you can see in the title, the Commanders have met with Christian Gonzales, Joey Porter, and Chris Smith to headline a lot of the prospects that they've already talked to. I have 22 players that we can already confirm that they've shown interest in, whether it be a formal meeting or an informal meeting, some individual coaching at one of the events like a Hula Bowl, NFL East-West Shrine Bowl, HBCU Bowl, Combine, all of that type of stuff. So these are so far the 22 prospects that we can confirm that the Commanders are at least somewhat interested in. Of course, once we start to hear the guys talk about certain players, even if they didn't meet with them, I'm gonna include them on the list, and I will just indicate Rivera talked about this guy, Martin Mayhew talked about this guy, things like that. Eric Bieniemy talked about this guy. A lot of y'all already know, but for those of y'all who may be new, you'll see once we get to the list. But before we dive into all of that, make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit the bell next to the subscription button so you get notification immediately. And every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one, make sure you pull up every Sunday for the call-in live show where I open up the phone lines and y'all call in and give your opinions on everything going down, especially after this combine and during the combine on Sunday. This should be really interesting. And then of course, stay tuned for all of the content, anything Commanders going on, sell of the team. Eric Bieniemy is our new offensive coordinator, the hiring process, players that we're interested in draft wise, free agency, all of that, man. Make sure y'all stay tuned for all Commanders news and opinions. And without further ado, let's get it. Alright, so just a little bit of background info. Again, a lot of y'all may already know this, so I don't want to spend too much time on it, but the chart is color coordinated by what rounds they're projected to go in. Of course, round 1 is picks 1 through 32, round 2 is 33 through 64, round 3 is 65 through the hundreds, and then so on and so forth. As you can see on the chart, again, the link to this exact information is in the description. Free for y'all to access whenever you want to. Download it, share it, whatever you want to do with it. And then we're gonna come back to this section at the end of the video, because as of right now this doesn't necessarily make a lot of sense, but we can scroll down and look at who I feel like are our biggest needs. And of course, our franchise quarterback, because until you have that, nothing else really matters. Sam Howell could be that guy, but as of right now we don't know for sure. And then after that, of course, offensive line, cornerback, linebacker, tight end, probably in that exact order, but you know, at least those four I put exclamation marks because those are pretty much interchangeable, whatever order you want to put them in. So I feel like it's quarterback first, gap, then these four things, gap, and then everything else. And edge depth, wide receiver depth, definitely the least of our needs right now. But who knows, this whole Montez Sweat, Chase Young situation, that can end up becoming a pretty big need for us pretty soon. But as of right now, 2023 draft wise is nothing for us to really worry about. And then our wide receiver group is easily the best group out of our entire team. between that and defensive line. Only reason I would want to add a receiver even in the mid rounds of this draft is because I really want an explosive returner. Dax Milne is cool. He's safe. He doesn't muff punts. But I would love an explosive return. I want to bring some of that DeAndre Carter back. But let's go ahead and get to the real chart, the thing that y'all have been waiting for. And I'm sorry for all the street score stuff everywhere, but y'all gonna know who put this together. This took me all day to put together. So I'm gonna have these logos and names everywhere. I don't care. I was slipping and lacking for not doing this previous years when I was doing this. But either way, of course, this is in order of the Draft Network's big board. So of course, there are a lot of big boards out there. And of course, the Draft Network isn't perfect, but I just like how they design their big boards and how their mock draft simulator is figured out. I just really like the Draft Network. I trust a lot of their draft analysts and things like that. I feel like they are a great collaboration of many analysts, and I feel like their composite big boards where everybody has an input and things like that, it's not going to necessarily be the most accurate because none of these are technically accurate. We don't really even know how good a draft class is until at least 3 years down the line. But I just typically like to go with them to stay consistent with everything. They update their stuff constantly. Again, they have a lot of different people working on the same thing, so they have a lot of different eyes, a lot of different opinions, and this is pretty much like the composite consensus type of thing rather than it just being one or a couple of people's big board. The Draft Network consists of a lot of people contributing, so I tend to trust them the most. But again, you can't completely trust anybody, but just to stay consistent, especially year after year, every year that I do this, we use them, might as well keep it going. So we met with Christian Gonzales, cornerback from Oregon. We had a formal meeting at the combine. So far, everybody on this list we've only met with once, so we're not going to worry about that right now. But later on, as we go further and further, eventually we would have met with some of these guys, especially more than likely a Christian Gonzales, more than once, and that's going to be really interesting to keep track of throughout this draft process, because we're going to bring guys in for meetings to the Commanders facility, probably in Virginia. We're going to probably go to meet with some people after the combine before the draft and things like that, and don't forget the pro days as well. So these confirmed times met are definitely going to change, and some of them are definitely going to get higher than number one. But again, just going off the Draft Network's big board, 5th overall and 11th overall, you have two cornerbacks, Christian Gonzales from Oregon, Joey Porter Jr. from Penn State. Very interesting, both formal meetings at the combine. You only have a select few of those. It's limited. You can't just have a formal meeting with every player that you want to meet with. So that means a lot. When you have a formal meeting with somebody, that means you're really interested in that person. And with those being the only projected first round picks that we've met with, it sounds like corner is a big need, which takes me back to this chart, which we're going to go back to again at the end of the video. And then after that, you have the UGA guy himself, Christopher Smith, the safety, maybe a potential Bobby McCain replacement. Really excited about him, man. I feel like he's drastically underrated. I feel like he could easily end up going in the first round, but if he were to make it to the second round, I would be even happier. And that's why trading back in this draft, if for some reason Christian Gonzales and Joey Porter are both gone before we're able to pick one of them with the 16th overall pick, I think trading back probably makes the most sense because you can gather a lot more talent that way, because I feel like the sweet spot of this draft is late first, early second, going into like the late second round, where there's a lot of starters within the first 2-3 rounds of this draft, and you would prefer to get as many of those as possible, where the guy you get at 16 probably won't be that much better than the guy you can get in the 20s. And then if you can add an additional second or third round pick there, I feel like ultimately you end up with a better draft. So of course I would love Christian Gonzales. He's one of my top 3, top 5 players that I want in this entire draft, but he's more than likely going to be gone by 16. As you can see by the Draft Network, they feel like he's the 5th best player in the entire draft. So I'm not confident in our ability to be able to get him, but you never know, man. Maybe you could trade back and still get Christopher Smith and a good corner and potentially a good offensive lineman. Speaking of offensive linemen, we have Osiris Torrance from Florida, interior offensive lineman, formal meeting combine. Again, pay attention to that. Then you have Steve Avila. I have not watched a lot of tape on him. I need to catch up on him. I don't know much about him. So far, out of everybody we've talked about so far, out of the top 5 guys, he's definitely the guy by far I've watched the least. So I definitely need to pay more attention to him because the Commanders took the time to meet with him at the combine. Wasn't indicated in the information that I received whether it was formal or informal, so I don't want to take the chance and put any misinformation there. I'm only putting information that I know. But interior offensive lineman looking like a sweet spot somewhere in the 2nd or 3rd round right now. Then my boy Dion Henley, and y'all saw me project him in a mock draft 2 mock drafts ago. I love this guy. I absolutely love his potential. I feel like he could end up being a great great pickup for us, man. I mean, athletic freak that was a receiver his first 3 years in college, moved to linebacker the 4th year and flashed a lot. Definitely going under the radar big time. I feel like if we would have moved the linebackers sooner and would have been able to put better tape out there and more tape out there as a linebacker, he'd probably be going in the 1st round. I feel like he's a 1st round talent that's only going in the 3rd round because he didn't have a lot of time at linebacker. He's still pretty raw. Of course, switching to linebacker for 1 year before you're drafted, there's a lot of nuance, IQ, and awareness things that he still needs to work on. But boy, the talent is there, man. One of the freakiest athletes in the draft. I would love it if we could find a way to steal him in the 3rd round. I would do backflips. And just going back to Joey Porter, I mean, the connection there is strong too. Even when talking about the Commanders in his combine press conference, he mentioned the fact that he would like to play for the Commanders because we already have a bunch of Penn State players. You have Jahan Dotson, Shaka Toney, and Tariq Castro Fields. So those are all former friends of his, and he would like that. And he said in our formal interview with him that we talked to him a lot, like an exact quote from him, a lot. But man, I'm really excited about Deion Henley. And at the end of this, I also want to do like a potential projected mock draft just based off of what we have right now. Not a lot of names, not a lot of rounds, but it's still fun to do. And of course, before the official draft happens, I'm gonna do my most realistic possible mock draft based off of this list, who we're interested in the most, and go round by round and things like that, who we're most likely to take. So make sure y'all stay tuned for that, of course, as well. And then you get to the 4th round in pink. You have a center, 2 edges, and a linebacker. More guys I need to watch a little bit more tape on, of course. And again, after like the 3rd round, I don't want to spend too much time on some of these players unless it's a guy that I feel like is a huge sleeper and we really need to focus in on and really need to draft. So again, y'all have access to this in the comment section. The link is right there if you want to look at this as long as you want. But just to scroll some more, we have a guard in the 5th round. In the 6th round, we have a linebacker and a kicker. Pay attention to the fact that the Commanders are interested in the kicker. Joey Sly, before that Cowboys game, I felt like his job was pretty secure. But then the way he was kicking against the Cowboys may have ruined it for himself a little bit. So the Commanders are definitely aware of that and definitely looking into kickers some point during this draft process, maybe even free agency. And then 7th round, Jordan McFadden, the offensive tackle guard. So a lot of offensive linemen. And then outside of the range of the 7 rounds when people are typically drafted, you have 2 names right here. And then you have 6 names that aren't even on the Draft Network's big board. And that's not to say that they're going to go undrafted. Maybe those guys just haven't caught up to them yet. Because in previous years where I've done this, some of these guys that weren't on the Draft Network's big board yet could shoot up all the way to like 100 and something, like the 4th or 5th round at some point. But they just haven't had the chance to look at them yet. So we'll see how that goes. So that's not to say that these guys are guaranteed to go undrafted at all. It's just that the Draft Network specifically have not taken the time to really do a deep dive into these guys. And some of these guys may be good enough to even go as high as like the 3rd or 2nd round when it's all said and done. But yeah, man, I'm really excited just to do like a quick little almost mock draft. I mean, of course, if Christian Gonzales is available at 16th, you're taking him. You're sprinting to the podium. Honestly, I feel like the Commanders may like him so much and for what they want to do on defense to where if he's there at like 11 or 12, they may try to find a way to trade up. But just to be a little bit more realistic, I think Joey Porter is more likely to slide to 16. But just say, hey, Christian Gonzales in the 1st round, and then Christopher Smith in the 2nd round, and then Steve Avila in the 3rd round. And I'm surprised no tackles are higher than this, because I'd prefer to move Samuel Cosmi to guard and then go heavy on tackle in free agency and or draft. But it sounds like they want Samuel Cosmi at right tackle still, Charles Leno at left tackle, just based on the fact that they're looking into interior offensive linemen more than anything else, especially in the higher rounds. So they're probably looking towards fixing interior offensive line and not tackle. They're probably higher on Samuel Cosmi and Charles Leno than most of us are, especially as Commanders fans. A lot of y'all feel like Charles Leno shouldn't even be on the team anymore. Of course, a lot of y'all agree with me to feel like Samuel Cosmi will be better at guard, but apparently, just again, it's early. So there's still a lot more players they need to meet with and that we need to find out that they've probably already met with, and we just haven't received the information on the fact that they've met with them yet. Maybe there are some tackles higher into the draft that they've already met with that they're very interested in that they haven't had a chance to meet with. So it's a lot of situations, but as of right now, based on the information that we have, it looks like interior offensive lineman is what they feel like the biggest need is offensive line wise, and not tackle. So Christian Gonzales 1st round, Christopher Smith 2nd round, and then Steve Avila in the 3rd. Now I really like Osiris as an interior offensive lineman. Like him a lot. Again, I haven't watched much Steve Avila, but if you're trying to have the best draft possible, there's no safety that they're interested in so far that we know about in the third round. And if there's an interior offensive lineman in the second or third, you can just take him in the third and get that safety in the second. But then again, I love Deion Henley. And even as much as I love Christopher Smith, I think Deion Henley's going to be a star at the NFL level. I feel like he's drastically underrated. So matter of fact, let's go Christian Gonzales first round, Osiris in the second, my boy Deion Henley in the third. Let's do that. And then we can get our center / interior offensive lineman in Oluwatimi in the fourth round, because Chase Roulier, top 5 center when healthy, but how often is he healthy? And the Commanders have already said it in their exit interviews at the end of the season that they want to take a look at interior offensive line just in case Chase Roulier gets hurt again. And they may move on from Chase Roulier after this 2023 season going into the 2024 season when he's less of a dick cap to hit our salary cap if we release him. Right now, wouldn't make much sense to release him because he would take up so much dick cap. You might as well just keep him on the team rather than him eating up that much money and not even being on the team. You might as well stay on the team. But after this season, we'll see if Chase Roulier can stay healthy. If not, you try to at least draft a potential replacement in this upcoming 2023 draft, even before Chase Roulier even touches the field in 2023. And then in the fifth round, if you want to go guard there to groom a guy to potentially be your starting guard, maybe you have McClendon Curtis, whose name is backwards to me. His name seems like it should be Curtis McClendon, but it is what it is. Then maybe if you want to, you can get your kicker in the sixth round, if that's where you want to go. And then maybe you can get your developmental offensive tackle in the seventh round. And then we'll see about undrafted free agents. Those are always really interesting. Y'all know I try to predict our undrafted free agents because those are heavily based on who we've met with. They're not just going to bring in some random undrafted free agent that they haven't been able to talk to in person. These are non-draft picks that you're bringing in to compete to potentially make the roster. So it's usually more times than not going to be some people that they met with. So it's really fun to predict which undrafted free agents we'll be able to get just based off of who they've shown interest in. So we'll get there when we get there. That's a road we'll cross later. But before we get up out of here, just based on everything that we currently have on the chart, the suggested biggest needs based on all of the players that they have is that DB and offensive line are our biggest needs because those are the most players they talk to so far, 7 each. Then defensive line and linebacker, all edge rushers, no interior defensive line. And then you have 1 running back and 1 kicker. No receivers, no tight ends, no quarterbacks. That tight end thing bothers me because Ron Rivera just said a couple of days ago that he loves our tight end position, and I love the potential of our tight end position. I talked about this in my previous video. Love the potential of the tight end position. Love the ceiling. I love Armani Rogers. Y'all know I'm really excited about him. I like John Bates as a floor. Logan Thomas, if he's healthy, if he can get back to his 2021 self, can be interesting. And then I also really like the ceiling of Curtis Hodges. But if we're talking floors, I'm not confident in this tight end group. I'm excited about it, but I'm not confident. So the fact that, you know, so far we have no confirmed meetings with tight ends, a little nervous. But so far, highest projected pick for each player. This is another way to look at how much they value that position, how much they feel like they need to fill that position, because cornerback was the 5th overall player in the big board. Safety was 52nd, interior offensive line was 53rd, linebacker 86, so on and so forth. And the only running back they talked to so far that they've shown interest in that we can confirm isn't even listed on the Draft Network's big board. So this is where things get interesting. But yeah, man, that's the end of this video. Again, please get in the comment section and find the link, and you can access this whenever you want to. You can come back to it, download it, share it, whatever you want to do. And of course, man, I appreciate all the support, man. Shouts out to all of my sponsors, especially my Pro Bowl sponsors, whose name you see scrolling on the screen right now. Please leave a like on this video if you liked it, if you learned anything, if you appreciate this chart, and if you want me to continue doing more videos like this leading up to the draft. Also, man, make sure y'all support the channel and definitely share that out if you can. And of course, get in the comment section, let me know how you feel about the 22 prospects we've interviewed so far, which prospects that we haven't shown interest in yet, confirmed to at the very least, do you want the Commanders to really look into? Name a lot of your underrated prospects that the Commanders are sleeping on, that most people are sleeping on, and also the prospects that we've talked to so far and have confirmed shown interest in. Who are your favorite guys out of that list so far, and who do you want us to draft the most? And without further ado, man, I'm gonna catch y'all later. I'm out.